Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with mental health advocate and speaker Julie Korioth. As the speaker is one founder, she is on a mission to change the way people think and talk about mental health, because open, honest communication helps people heal. Like many passionate mental health advocates, Julie knows what it's like to need help. As a little girl with undiagnosed visual processing disorders, being called on to read in class left her feeling anxious, confused, and alone. She pushed through, and today, she is offering great emotional wellness to all of those that need the inspiration and push to get where they're at to help their mental health. Enjoy this interview.
So, Julie, before we get into your life and kind of peel back the layers of being a mental health advocate and speaker, you know, one of the things that contributed heavily to what we've all gone through with mental health has been COVID for the last 3 years. And I'm wondering how you survived that time period and how it subsequently changed the way that you live your life and the way that you conduct business.
Okay, great question, because so my mental health, very long story short, started when I was very young. I didn't know what anxiety was, but now that I do, I know that when I was in kindergarten, I was experiencing a lot of anxiety, high school, a lot of depression, got married in my 30s, got a divorce right before I turned 40, and all the trauma that I had dealt with in my life growing up and on kind of just came to the surface and boiled up in ways I would have never expected. So my mental health after my divorce was really taken a turn in ways that was almost paralyzing, to be quite honest with you. So I decided to stop drinking 4.5 years ago, and that helped and tremendously. But there was still some real demons I was dealing with. And so I went to a trauma specialist and started seeing her. Her name's Mary, and she's amazing. And then she suggested, and one other doctor, that I go to this 30-day trauma treatment intensive in Nashville. And this is where it gets really interesting. I decided to go. I knew I needed help. I wanted to be a better parent. I wanted to be a better person. I really just did this for my kids, to be honest with you. And then I went and I got back March 15th, 2020. Lockdown was March 16th. COVID and lockdown for me was a true blessing, and I hate to say that. I know that there's just so many people whose lives were uprooted because of it, but I was really able to come back from that trauma intensive and heal, and to be with my kids, and to take time. And a lot of these 30-day treatment programs, you know, people have to come back and they have to start working immediately, and you know, sometimes they can go through relapses of whether it's with drug and alcohol or whether it's like with their mental health. But for me, I was able to still really just to take everything that I learned at that 30-day treatment program and bring it to this really healing, slow-paced life. Now, out of that, I realized people are going to need help more than ever, and that's really where Speak as One was born.
So I'm curious, for people out there, like you said, you didn't realize it till later in life that there were things that, you know, were either buried or you were busy and you didn't recognize it. But for most of the lay people that exist in the world that go through their lives that may not be cognizant that they've gone through heavy things, because sometimes you don't have an objective, measuring stick to say, oh, well, you know, all these people went through this and I went through that. Some people are so lost in that cloud. How do you recognize as a human being that you've been through trauma and you need help?
Oh, great question. There were signs all along, but I never voiced them, right? Because I think now it's a little easier to voice these things. People are talking about mental health more than ever, but I always kept them hidden because it wasn't accepted in society. It's like I felt like I had to be this smiley, bubbly lady who was like very engaging, and I am. Like that is who I am. But I also was suffering really in ways that I didn't actually understand until I went through it. But now looking back, if you are carrying heavy like a heavy weight inside of you. If you feel like you're walking around with just weights on you, or you're trying to doggy paddle through life every day and you're not learning how to swim and you don't have these tools, I would say that's a real sign to try and go and get help. If you don't want to wake up in the morning, if you find it just a challenge or a burden even to get through the day, But what I really hope that we can start doing at Speak as One, and the reason these stories are important and the reasons that these resources and these tools are so important is because we want people to treat their mental health like they do their physical health. There is a gym around every corner, and you can walk and you can swim and you can do all these different ways to take care of your physical health, and it's accepted in society. I mean, people praise you for it. We want people to praise others who are taking care of their mental health as a preventative measure, because life is going to throw us challenges no matter what. And it's really hard to get away from them. And so why not have the tools and resources you need to be able to work through those challenges in ways that can serve you, in ways that that you have support out there, in ways that there's tools and things that you can do every day, whether it's meditating, journaling, breath work, taking a few minutes to go outside of your office space to go get some sunlight. If you can't do that, having a happy light in front of you. And these are just some tools that, that I try to utilize every day in order to just make sure that I'm feeling as balanced as I can.
So let me ask you this. Let's kind of get to the essence of exactly what you do on a daily basis. If I was to put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids, third graders at a career day, and one of the kids looked up at you and asked, "What do you do for a living?" how would you answer them?
I would say that, I wake up every day to serve others that need support with their mental health, because we all have a mental health. And I do that by talking with people, what I call them storytellers. They come on my YouTube channel and they share their stories around mental health and resources that they use to get help. And we also do that by providing these retreats for companies to come in and say that we're all in this together. A lot of times companies or universities or organizations, they provide therapy services through their insurance, and they don't always utilize those because there's still a stigma around it. And what we're trying to do is say, we want to get everyone on your team here at this event, at this symposium, to say we're all in this together, our leaders, our employees, and then have these different breakout rooms that will provide people with knowledge around different things that they can do to support their mental health, and set them up with a box and a package with all the items they need to go home and take this with them to their work and their home, their workplace, and then check in every couple of months and resupply those packages, making sure that everything is still up to date. How do we focus on nutrition? How do we focus on sleep? And recreating every couple of months ways that people can support their mental health.
So when you were in grade school, what was your dream to be when you grew up?
Well, that's really funny. I wanted to be a singer.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. I wanted to be Whitney Houston.
There you go. Yeah. So are you happy with how everything's turned out?
Oh, yes. I wouldn't. I love what I do. Every day I think, like I said earlier, how can I wake up and serve? How can we, normalize mental health? How can we support these young children? Our goal here is to be able to make this globally recognized one day in all professions and in people's daily activities, and that includes, young kids and education, and unfortunately they're not educated on mental health. How do we make sure that kids they have to go every year to get a checkup from their pediatrician? How do we make sure that they're getting checkups every year about their mind? Our body and our mind both need to have the same focus.
Excellent. So, the one thing that always gives us fuel are those that we admire and look up to? Who's been a hero or a role model that's consistently motivated you or made you kind of stay on track, stay focused?
Well, I'll say I have to go internally for that a lot, and my faith is important for me. And externally, I look up to people like Oprah, of course, who's been a complete game changer in the way people, think about mental health. I mean, she had people like Deepak on, back in the day when, people would probably consider someone like Deepak like maybe not the norm of how we think about things, right? So I think she's just been a true leader in changing the conversation around our minds and how we move forward in life. So she's somebody I definitely look up to.
So I don't want to be presumptuous here, but if you were to have a chance to meet one person alive on the planet and spend time with them, who would it be?
Oh, that's tough. Somebody alive on the planet. Yeah, I mean, I think Oprah would be a good one. I'm drawing a blank right now. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on her name.
Yeah. We could circle back around. No worries.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. So, the one thing about our lives, and you kind of touched on the younger years, but let's get more into it a little bit. Tell me where you were born and raised and what some of these seeds specifically were that were planted in you to become somebody that wants to help other people.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, north of Houston, a little bit, in an area called Spring. My parents, my mom was a teacher. My dad was a Houston police officer, so was born into a family, of service, And I think that what planted the seed for me, I don't know, there's nature versus nurture, right? And I feel like a part of me was really just born to be observant and aware. I was always questioning why are there groups and why are there cliques, and I didn't understand it. Like I wanted to be friends with everyone, the people, the smart group and the music group and the popular group, or the people who wore more black. I didn't ever care about that. And it bothered me. It always bothered me when people weren't kind. And so I always felt a sense, but I was very shy, but I always felt this internal need to want to bring people together and move past those barriers. So I think that a part of that was, I don't know if there's necessarily a seed that was planted, and if it was, I think it was before I was, it was while I was in my mother's womb. I just think part of that is just nature that's inside of me that is wanting to make a difference.
So of all of these roads that you've been down in your life, all of the things that you've overcome and the successes you've had, if you were to have a dream tonight and you were to run into the 20-year-old version of yourself and you could give that younger version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led and the things that you've overcome, the wisdom you've gained, what would you tell that young version?
Oh, I would tell her to have fun. I would just tell her to have fun and to learn to experience peace in life. I've always been such a serious person, and a part of that has gotten me to where I am, and I've lived so much in my mental illness that that's what I would tell her, is to really try and have fun and enjoy it, because life does go by fast. and life is going to throw you challenges, but when you can learn to find peace and trust and enjoy it, it makes it all so much better.
What has been one of the best client success stories, best fan letters you've ever gotten from the work you've done?
Well, I would say I've had quite a few people that just by me mentioning the fact that I stopped drinking, and this can go into clients, but it can also go into just us having conversations about it. I simply told somebody one time, she was asked, how do I handle Christmas how do I handle Christmas with my family? And I was like, oh, what, go into more detail about that. And she's like, I just find that I drink so much more, and and I said, well, we all have our coping skills, and it's good to know how to take care of yourself. And I just said, I stopped drinking, but that used to be one of mine. But now, like, I try to, if I'm finding any moment challenging, I try to just step away and recenter myself and do some breathing exercises. Long story short, she came up to me, I think 4 months after that, and was like, I stopped drinking. And I was just kind of took a step back, and I said, oh, I hope I hope you didn't take that as I meant that you needed to stop drinking. I was just sharing. And she's like, no, you just sharing that made me realize that, just made me rethink things and how I want to live my life. And so she was like, thank you so much. And so the work that I do and the coaching I do is super important. And I have clients that have definitely been able to, find ways of working through challenges and stuff like that. But just simply sharing, and the stories that we share on our YouTube channel at Speak as One have also impacted lives by just sharing. I had a woman that ended up going to the same trauma treatment facility I went to just because I was sharing my story. She reached out and said, can you send me the information? So I want to say that, of course, like coaching and having all these different levels of things that we do at Speak as One, I just want to encourage people to share their journeys on ways that they really support and take care of themselves, because it can help others. It can plant that seed that you were talking about earlier.
Of all of the things that you've done in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Well, my kids. I adore them more than anything. And then the work I'm doing right now. It is, if I won the lottery, I would not stop working. I would be doing exactly what I'm doing right now. And, I love it. I believe in it. I believe that we can really make a change in mental health. I wake up every day and I think, why is the second leading cause of death amongst 10 to 25-year-olds, death by suicide? That's only in that population. We still have the same numbers in men and older men. We have vets. We have first responders who are not dying in the line of duty. They're dying by taking their lives. So every day I wake up and I think, how can we support people on this journey, and for them to know that if you can just get through this time, you're needed here, you're wanted here, and you're enough, and just to get through this, because it does get better. Life gets better.
So in your line of work, you obviously see this all the time, and, being an expert, all the rest of us out here that have things that we want to fix and resolve and take care of in our lives. What is usually the first step, the fatal flaw that most people have, so to speak, and the first step for people to get to that point where they can break through and start doing things that they want to get done in their lives?
Yeah, the hardest thing to do, and the one thing that people can do, is ask for help. So, it took me so long to ask for help, so long. And finally, when I did, it was a friend of mine whose friend was a therapist. And I finally said, hey, can I talk to your friend who's a therapist? And he was like, sure. And that call changed my life. It's simply asking for help, because once you ask for help, one door opens, and then that's only the first of many that will continue to open and change your life. And I realize it's the hardest thing to do, because it's hard to let people know that you're struggling. It's hard to let people know that we need help. But that's why we're all here. Our tagline is we're healthier together, and we're here to support each other. And we all have that one trusted person we can confide in. And so just, if it's that one person, if it's looking online, whatever you have to do, ask for help.
So everyone out there has a perception of you, an idea of who they think you are. There's different pockets of people that we deal with on a regular basis: family, friends, clients, colleagues, but ultimately you're in control of your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Ooh. Well, that's a good one. I will tell you, up until about a year ago, I probably always saw myself as the most insecure person in the room. It's been really hard for me to kind of change that. I've always been like very humble, and as I've started to work on myself and change, I see myself as a woman who is a leader. I see myself as a loving mother. I see myself as a person who wants to really take care of the way we view mental health. And I say take care of that because I really want to walk along the side of people. I do see myself as a leader in some ways, but I also just want to walk alongside people and work on this together. We're this company is a small piece of the puzzle. And so I see, the work that I do is adding to that and bringing others along and hopefully, really creating true change in the way we view mental health.
So, Julie, if anyone out there wants to learn more about you, hire you, anything involving your world, where's the best place for them to go?
The best place for them to go is they can always reach out at my email, which is julie@speakas1. You can go to our website, speakas1.com. All of our socials are SpeakAs1, except our Instagram is SpeakAs1 Community.
Wonderful, Julie. This has been great. Thank you for being so open about your story and about your life. Best of luck with everything.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.